Dedicated to bringing our community together through wellness, keeping your heart pumping with positivity. Good morning. Today, we are tackling one of the most persistent issues in Milwaukee that affects wellness: where you sleep, your home. So, we'll be talking a little bit about Milwaukee's homeless population, some of the Supreme Court legislation that they will be taking up shortly, and then that'll go through the summer, and what Outreach Community Health Centers is doing to help combat that problem, provide resources for Milwaukee's population, and what you can do to step up and fill in the gap. So, in the second hour today, we'll be joined by two amazing individuals that are using their gifts and talents to make life better for the homeless population in Milwaukee. So, this got me to thinking as I was prepping for the show. Do you think Milwaukee has a homeless problem, quote unquote? I'm going to put that in quotes, problem. Talk back to me, Milwaukee, 414-444-5250 to weigh in. So Milwaukee, as well as the rest of the country, does something called a point in time count, where on one day, one single night in January, they count all of the homeless people throughout the country. So, what the government calls it is sheltered versus unsheltered. So, if you think about that, just think about how many times in life you might not have had a place to sleep over the course of one night. Then I want you to think about how easy that would be to just rotate into the next night and then the next night. And as humans do, we adjust, we find ways to make it work. So your car becomes a residence, or the homie's couch becomes a residence, or you just move from place to place to place to place, in to stay safe, right? So what I'm interested in is, how do we fix the problem? How do we fix the issue? How do we get people sheltered? All right, we got a caller this morning. Greetings and good morning. Welcome to the program.
Greetings to you as well. Yeah, so I'm a native Milwaukeean, and I'm getting ready to say I'm about to be homeless because I was living in a mobile site, and just before 2 days before Black History was over with, they came to me, which is in the last 2 days of March. And so the mobile people was like, well, we're not going to renew your lease. I'm like, hold on, blah. They said, but you have an option to buy.
Hmm.
I never had no interest in buying no mobile home. I said, well, I'm not interested. Can I go month to month until I? Do you know they would not let me go month to month until I find me a place? So I found the place, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yesterday, it was all good. Gave the woman $2,000, to move in, and moved all of my stuff in. For her to get a phone call to say the owner of the place, which she stated that he was the owner, lied.
Mm.
And he was telling her that she has not been committed to, owning up to her expectations of leasing the place. Yada yada. I'm like, leasing. So he told her that she has until the first to get out of to vacate the place. Like, and I'm looking like, what in the world is happening? So now I have to go and get another moving people, which costs me money
Mm-hmm.
to move
Mm-hmm.
out of there and put my stuff in storage. And I'm going to be homeless until I find me a place. Are you kidding me?
And
At
I
65 years old.
No, I thank you for sharing that. And listen, I hope that you can stay connected and listening in our second hour, because these are experts. So I'm giving them the platform to share to help fill in those gaps. So we have a program called Rapid Rehousing. It does have some qualifications, some stipulations, but they are the experts in how to get that done. So I hope that you can stay listening and stay connected through the second hour so that we can get you some resources to help. Let me ask this: did you get everything documented? Did you
I
know
do.
the
I have
things
the
they
lease and
said?
everything.
Mhm.
I do.
Okay. Keep that handy. I feel like sometimes people, to take it back to an old word, people try to punk you a little bit because they feel like you won't read the information. They feel like you don't know the law. But people can't put you out in the street. Right. So that first agreement, and of course, this isn't legal advice, but that first agreement carries weight, and so people can't just change it on a whim or change it the way they think it should go when they think it should go. So my recommendation is to collect all of your paperwork. We'll connect you with some programs of some folks that can maybe fill in that gap so that you do stay sheltered, you do stay safe. But I appreciate the call. Keep listening, keep calling in, and listen. We want some results for you today. So if you can't stay in tune for the second hour, then make sure you connect with outreach directly so we can get you taken care of.
Appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's really what I'm finding. People sit and they think about why someone might become homeless. Oh, they're not responsible. Oh, they're not. Most of those are ideas that we project. But a couple paychecks missed, a line item that wasn't checked in a lease, just shady business practices. I'm looking at the news recently and I'm looking at all of these calls in from these apartment buildings. I think I saw one yesterday where the ceiling was caving in, and I'm thinking, you are bold to sit and try to collect rent when you have a ceiling that is caved in, or you have a rodent problem, or you have I saw the bed bugs in a couple places. So people are struggling to pay additional taxes. They're struggling to pay additional property taxes. They're struggling to get by. Then the properties that they're buying aren't holding up their ends of the bargain. And most people choose not to be in that situation. Listen, if I had to choose between sleeping with thousands of bed bugs or sleeping in my car, I think I might go with the car. I really, really do. But by the grace of God, right? So what I want from you, Milwaukee, is weigh in. Continue to weigh in. If you've got this won't be a sounding board for slumlords because we know they're out there. But the homelessness problem in Milwaukee can be solved, should be solved. We have the resources to solve. So getting back to this point in time homeless count, it counts unsheltered people experiencing homelessness on one single night in January. They're measuring households with at least one adult and one child, households without children, households with only children. And what they're doing with that is they're counting and saying, this is how many homeless people we have in the country. So in 2021, we had 7.1 million American households experiencing severe housing cost burden. That means they spent more than 50% of their income on housing. Now, does anybody know the sweet spot of your income that your housing should be? It should never be more than 30% of your income spent on your housing. So you see all these McMansions and, selling us a dream on all these reality shows. Just know that when purchasing housing, whatever you're making, 30% of that, you should never go more than 30% of what you're making. But in this particular study, homelessness had been decreasing since 2014, but rose again in 2021. Um, what they also counted as I prepped for this show and thought was interesting is the amount of people that are doubling up. Doubling up means that you have a housing hardship, risk of homelessness, and you're now staying with someone else, right? That's a number that sometimes can be overlooked because, hey, if I have to move back in with my parents, if I have my parents move in with me, and we're both moving in with the kids, that says and signals that everything might not be well with our economy. 3.7 million people across the country were in that situation in 2021. Now, what do we know about 2021? That's pandemic time, right? So people were losing jobs, being laid off, and figured out a way to make it work. One thing I know about people of Milwaukee is that they're resilient. They're going to make it work. So doubling up was one of the ways that people were able to make it through. So how do we get there? Why is this relevant now? Well, Outreach again works with the homeless population here in Milwaukee, the unsheltered, but also the Supreme Court will be taking up legislation on what are called encampments. So, sleeping in your car at the park and ride, some of the groups and organizations that allow encampments on their property, the Supreme Court is cracking down on those. So, it stems from a case in Oregon City. And the Supreme Court, and I'm just going to read just a really, really quick portion of this um, just to explain where we are. So, the Supreme Court is taking up the case that says it would be a crime for anyone without a permanent residence to sleep outside in an effort to crack down on homeless encampments across public properties. Now, what do public properties mean? What does the word public mean? And if I'm paying taxes, right? So you see how this can go down a rabbit hole. Milwaukee, talk back to me 414-444-5250. Tell me if you've heard about this case, what your opinions are about the case, and maybe where you think the Supreme Court is going to land on it. So it would be illegal for you not having a permanent residence. So that point in time count I talked about on that particular night, you did not have an address. Sleeping outside would be illegal. You could be arrested, you could be fined, so on and so forth. Now, I don't know about you, but I had my college days where money was scarce, right? I used to park downtown in my little Chevy Lumina. Shout out to the Chevy Lumina, black tinted windows, the whole deal. I used to park downtown at college and I would get parking tickets. Now, mind you, I'm already paying tuition that is akin to a Harvard at the time, but I was at the Harvard of the Midwest, Marquette University, and parking on the street to go to a 2-hour, 3-hour class. And I would get a ticket. And then I would get another ticket and then another ticket and another ticket because I couldn't afford at that time. I think it was maybe $200 per semester to park. That was a lot. I paid tuition, paid for my room and board, paid for my food. So the car registration and parking tickets was a burden. And it just kept going, kept going, kept growing. And to the point where they're like, hey, we're going to take your license. Now, I was scared straight. I got my life together after that. But my question to you, Milwaukee, why find someone who clearly cannot pay? What good does that do? Does that serve as a deterrent? It doesn't. So we're penalizing people who are already in a position that they cannot. What's the word I want to use? They can't save themselves in that predicament, and we're making it worse for them. Okay, so we've got a caller. Welcome to the program. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you. God bless you. This topic really hits my heart. I know Milwaukee has a homeless problem, and it gets very extremely cold here. My daughter lives in Sacramento, and she lives they have townhouses there
Mm-hmm.
and different areas. However, all around the areas, they have extremely homelessness.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking whole families.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, when you say, "Oh, well, it's illegal," or when they say what you just said that,
Mm-hmm.
how dare you have a public place? They put up fences so they cannot make tents and things in those areas.
Mm-hmm.
If you go out there, it's not just in the area where she lives. They have to bar them from the parks, where the children play. Most of the mothers and things like that. The other thing is like say Pizza Hut or shoe places and things
Mm-hmm.
like that. The thing that bothered me the most is they are so it's so many. It's just so
Mm-hmm.
many in one place.
And that points to how big the problem is, right? I mean, this is not
Yeah,
one or two people that are falling through the cracks. This is a systemic problem,
it
right?
really is. Yes, ma'am. And then you have, and I want you to picture this. I want you to picture right by the schools, across
Mm-hmm.
the street from the schools, right straight down the highways. It is so bad.
Mm,
Nowhere, anywhere you go. And when I was on the train, all along the train tracks.
mm,
And to me, when they do this survey in California, we know California is a big state.
mm-hmm.
It's so bad out there that you just start there and work their way back. I'm not kidding you. It's just a shame
So
that
what
the
do you
homelessness.
think the remedy is? And I know that's trying to boil it down into one thing,
Mhm.
but what do you think we need to be doing to eradicate this problem? How do we solve it?
Well, I think, like you said, a census should be done of the homelessness should be done, and then I think that we have too many empty buildings. Okay,
Mhm.
there's a lot of empty buildings all across America.
Mhm.
We can clean those up, and they could probably help. I myself was going to ask. I asked a couple of guys. I said, "Look, you want to clean my backyard? You standing here on this corner,
Mhm.
and you say I will work for money. I will work for this. How about helping me clean my backyard?" There's little things like that, and it's so many things that we can do, but we got to come up with a strategy. I have so many ideas in my head. I don't mind helping the homeless. They're hungry
They're hungry,
and they're
they're
cold.
yeah. I mean,
They
Milwaukee gets
yeah,
cold, you know.
yes. And
And
I'm like,
yeah, this past time out, this past
oh,
winter when we had those days that were dangerously cold,
yes,
our crew was out taking people to shelters. So,
yes,
when you're
yes.
out on the street in the summer,
Mhm.
you can do a little bit more, but when it's negative
Yeah,
20 and the wind chill is minus
yeah,
50, that's life-taking cold, right?
yeah, yeah.
And that's on
Y-
us. That's on us to ask and demand change from our leadership.
And
That's
you
on
know
us.
what,
Mhm.
ma'am? People think, oh, well, it's California. It doesn't get cold. Yes, it does. It
Yes, it
gets as
does.
cold. You know that does. It gets cold out there.
Yes, it
And she's
does.
in Sacramento, and that's more northern.
Mhm.
And by the way, it does snow.
That was just my thought. I'm like, Sacramento gets snow, don't they? That's up
I
in
think
the
it's I think it's more a little bit more north, but they get
Mhm.
snowcast because I'm from Denver, and so I'm like it's freezing out here, and you see these children.
Mhm.
These are
Mhm.
moms and dads outside, a whole families. When I see all these families, my heart bleeds. I feel so guilty. I'm not kidding. I have a warm house. I just want to just take them and just,
Take them all in. Take them all
yeah,
in. Actually, I
yeah.
remember watching a documentary some years back about Disneyland in California,
Mhm,
and in this particular documentary, they talked about the people who worked at Disneyland. Now, here's the
mhm,
thing, a lot of times we consider the homeless to not be working. A lot of
mhm,
homeless people have jobs that they get up and go to every single day.
mhm.
So they're
Yes,
working poor, right? So now imagine another layer of this. You got to get up to go to work at 6, 7, 8, and you
yes,
slept in your car. Then you've got to figure out a shower or how to clean yourself, figure out how
yep,
to eat,
yes,
and then move forward through the world. So, like,
yeah,
sometimes it takes that compassion, but I think this is one of those big issues we all need to put our heads together and figure it
absolutely,
out. Figure it out. Well, I appreciate you
absolutely.
calling. Thank
God
you
bless
so
you.
much. Same to you. Keep listening,
Okay,
keep calling
I will, and
in.
I'm gonna put in if they have a place where we can donate. If you, I hope they set it up and you're in the outreach. Please, please, please let us know because our church gives things, and me myself, I have things in my home, blankets or whatever the case may be. If we're gonna buy, I know if you get a shelter or whatever, we want to donate things. We want to give things. We have givers out here that are willing to help them to keep warm. Please, please, let us know a number or something where we can bring things to them, and help them out with.
Absolutely,
Oh,
absolutely. So in our second hour, we have Ashley who will be here. She will tell you how you can
okay.
donate. And I love that the spirit of I don't have to do this by myself. Let me get my church involved. Let me get my
Yes,
people involved.
ma'am.
So I appreciate that and bless you.
Okay.
Okay, keep
Bless you.
doing the right
Okay.
thing.
Thank you. Thank
Thank you,
you.
thank you. We have another caller. Good morning and welcome to Community Heartbeat.
Good morning, Miss Star. Miss Star, right?
Sally, Sally.
Sally. Okay, okay. All
Yes,
right
yes,
then. Well,
yes.
Tyrone W. speaking. Good morning. Good morning,
Pleasure. Good
people. Good
morning.
morning, Milwaukee. Thank you. Glad to be in your presence. Very quickly, I appreciate you sharing your story
Mhm.
about being on campus and all. But
Mhm.
I just wanted to say there's documentation for renters when they pay their de- their deposit at first,
Mhm.
and then if they're ejected for unjust cause, there's certain things in the policies that they can challenge. Now, I don't know if they've got the time or whatever to go to municipal or small claims court or whatever there, but because some landlords refuse to give their, if they've only did 15 days or whatever out of a
Mhm.
month, they've got half the month there. Well, give me half my money back in my deposit, and they may have to go to small claims court or whatever to fight for that. But then they've got to get into another place because
Mhm.
they need that
Mhm.
that that money to get the foot back in the other door.
Mhm. So it
So, but look,
becomes a process, right? So
right,
if
absolutely. So yeah, look
Mhm.
at your policies and stuff there, but there should be. It's not only unconstitutional, but it goes against what the pursuit of happiness actually endures there. So it all comes down to almost an illusion. Then, well,
Mhm.
why are you ejecting me? Because well, I haven't really done anything wrong, but
Mhm.
you're taking my money, and I need that to be able to keep going here. So yeah, so make sure you look at your policies, and then very quickly on the way out the door, I think part of the a solution would be more affordable housing
Mm.
to where
Mm.
there's not as much renting going on and different things like that. So yeah, more affordable housing and a better living wage.
Oh,
For,
it's
for,
that's it. That's one
yeah,
of the
most
major
certainly
keys.
for everybody all around. So have a wonderful day and a blessed weekend, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. I appreciate the call. I appreciate you all listening and then weighing in on what you think helps. So we've got okay. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're listening to Community Heartbeat presented by Outreach Community Health Centers. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Community Heartbeat, presented by Outreach Community Health Centers. This is not just a radio show, this is a movement dedicated to bringing our community together through wellness. So, welcome back to the program. Today, we are talking about housing, homelessness, Milwaukee's persistent homelessness problem, and what are some solutions and ways that the community can chime in to help. So, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, and thank you for taking my call.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to be repeating something that a caller had mentioned, and that's about being strategic and intentional.
Mhm.
We have a lot of city buildings that we could do a lot more with, and I think if the city gets smart about what they're doing and help people, that once these people, and this is not just a Wisconsin problem or a Milwaukee problem,
Mhm.
it's all over the United States, and for various reasons. And after you've been out there for 5 or 10 years, there's an issue of mental wellness going
Mhm.
on.
Mhm.
And some people have purpose. If you take the time and really talk to people that are homeless out there, some of them are educated people
Oh,
that have checked out
absolutely.
for personal reasons, something that devastated them, and they just don't want to be under anyone else's control. So
Absolutely.
some of the things that you're going to be doing, and I think it's clear when they line up at these places, like at from 2 to 5:30 to try to get in,
Mhm.
and then they put you out in the morning by 6 o'clock or something. This is what people are telling me,
Mhm.
and then they have to roam around all day and come back again and not be even given the same spot that they had before. Do you know how that makes you feel so displaced?
Mhm.
You need
Mhm.
to have something where you can look at the people, try to assess something, not only just bring them in there, but have people situated to know, okay, this is going to be a long-term person
Mhm.
that don't want any immediate help. We'll house them over in this building, but yet he'll have the same space every night that he comes. You know what I'm saying?
Very true.
Once,
Very true.
once you get their mindset, okay, this is where I belong, then maybe that'll help them think I could go somewhere else that I can belong long term. It's like a peeling an onion back. It takes time because it took time for them to get into that
Yep.
situation.
Yep.
And then
I
the
agree.
next thing, they did a report on supposedly, I don't know where they did this, but you can't take apples and oranges, saying that Wisconsin fits right in with nationwide with the other states in regards to rent. Well, come on, you can't compare a state that their income is higher
Right.
than
Right.
Milwaukee or Wisconsin. That's not apples and apples. That's
Right.
apples and oranges.
Right.
So and look, I already know for a fact because I overheard the conversation, and I know people that work in these apartment complexes. They
Mhm.
do it like the stock market.
Mhm.
You could call them in the morning at 9:30 and get a quote on an apartment and not really lock it in, and then call them around 3:30. That apartment has gone up. Do you hear what I'm
I
telling you?
do. I do. And
So,
and depending on what your voice sounds like when you call,
right,
depending on what you may look like
all
when you
those
show
things
up at the
are going
office,
up.
absolutely.
And so it's a lot of unfairness going on. And it's so much has changed with our political system. And so we're all looking at each other very funny now. And
Mhm.
it's strange and it's hard. But you know something? How can we get better when we have people that are afraid of their own shadow that we've given jobs to?
Mm.
They're afraid to say something because they might lose their job. But you
Mm.
should not take these jobs if you're not doing it for the people and the good of the people that you're serving.
Oh,
You
I
know what I'm saying?
appreciate that. I appreciate
And I
that.
just want to say one
Mhm.
other thing that we're going through right now with a person that's running for president. Why would you even have to ask a question? Do I need absolute immunity? Why would you just come on my person? Because if you're doing your job, Congress has
Mhm.
to approve what you're
Mhm.
doing. So
Mhm.
why would you go to jail after you go out and they approve what's going on?
You
But if
know,
you get
I said this a few years ago. I said when policies and politics becomes the nightly entertainment, we
right,
are in trouble. I
that's
like
right.
my politics being very boring. I want to talk about, housing may not be the hottest topic and it's not, the lead story
Over,
on the news, but that's the important part, right? Like where our citizens are living, right? Would you agree with
right,
that?
yeah.
I don't need all the salacious real house husbands and political theater. We are in trouble as a
Okay,
as yeah.
and let me just say one other thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting into an area where it's about the poor and the rich. Middle
Mm-hmm.
class is slipping out.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think, well, I'm comfortable now, your reality in the morning could be very different.
Could be very
So when
different.
you turn your nose up and look down on someone, think about it. It could be you the next step. So I'm saying we need to get together as a community, find out what community we live in, and see what community organization that already exists, because it's resources there. And if the wrong person get in office, those resources will probably be drying up.
Yeah, I
We have to
agree with
get.
you 100%.
We need to get together. We need to create zones and connect people and blocks to a place that they could go to for help and assistance, and have those resources come in. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's already something in place,
Yeah,
but we need to
totally agree.
access those places, and we need to get out there and vote. It is so critically
Say it
important. And if you
again.
do
Say it
vote,
again.
vote, it makes a difference.
It
And
makes
if
a
it didn't
difference.
make a difference, they wouldn't be trying so desperately to take it away from us. Just like souls to the polls. Then you
Mhm.
get the Republicans getting in there to mess up and wreak havoc, and then go back and say, well, I apologize. I didn't mean to do that.
Mm,
No,
mm.
you're in this game. If you apologize, his boss needs to get rid of him, because there's no time for jokes and playing around. This is serious
This
business.
is serious business. And
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 everybody, now this is what I need to tell my people in the community.
mhm.
Sometimes people that look like you, that you think are helping you, are not.
Look. That's the truth.
So don't sign up for the okie doke. Look at the facts. You're intelligent. We're an intelligent group of people that have been through a lot, but we have to appreciate what other people have gone through. Because just African Americans by ourselves cannot win everything.
That's
We might
true.
be pushing over the line, but we have to bring like-minded people together. Because if you think every white person in the United States loves Trump, you're wrong.
That's true.
There's
That's true.
other people's grandfathers and great grandfathers, brothers, uncles, and everything that fought in a war for our democracy. And
Yeah.
I don't think they're gonna want this to just go away for their little low self-esteem. I want to feel more important to these white people. We need to get over that.
Listen, you
And we
are
got
in
a
here
lot ahead of
preaching
us.
this
I don't want to
morning.
take up all your time. It's a lot of things we have to look at. And you can't look at it through a peephole.
Mhm.
You have to look at it from 35,000 feet up.
You are
Thank you
you
for
are
taking my call, and thank you for having this time for people to air and come up with some ideas and then come together with their money.
absolutely. You have
Okay.
given me if you're watching on YouTube and you're watching the stream, thank you so much for your call. I'm in here jotting notes. I'm in here jotting question marks and arrows because you hit on so many different topics. First off, it costs money to be poor. Let me just repeat that. It costs money to be poor. So I shared the story about the ticket, right? The ticket then blossoms and balloons into another issue. Now you can't renew your driver's license. Now you can't drive legally. Now, so I'm thinking about how this all plays out. I was blessed enough to be able to nip the bud, get it done quickly. But if my driver's license got suspended, now I can't drive my car. So now if I get stopped out in my car because I still got to go to work, now it's right. So now I can't drive the car. Got to have somebody come pick me up. Now what? Do I pay them gas money plus pay my car note plus still got to pay tuition? It costs money to be poor. Then I go to the check cashing place. I got to pay a fee to get my money, to get my check, which I wouldn't have to do in a bank. But then my bank charges me fee. Right. So these things snowball. So the last caller shared, we think it could not happen to us. You take two paychecks that you're accustomed to getting and don't get those two paychecks. Be really, really honest with yourself this morning. What happens to your financial outlook if you miss two paychecks? Three, a month, 6 months of no money. You might be in the same situation. So, getting back to what the Supreme Court is taking up, because all of this goes back to the voting, right? How we pick our leaders, how we pick our government, those who govern us. They're saying that you can't sleep outside. One of the arguments is you got to sleep. You got to sleep. So, if it's in a public place that you're sleeping, and in theory, you're a taxpayer, what is the issue? So, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals saying last year the homeless camping ban is cruel and unusual punishment under the Eighth Amendment. So those conservative justices that were just appointed to the court, they're making the decision for you. So if this does not push you to vote, I don't care who you vote for. When I say that, I mean do your homework, do look at the issues that affect you. I'm not going to tell you how to vote. But the civil practice of getting out and picking your leadership is critical right now. It is critical. Our future depends on it. Now, how does this relate to here at home? So the county has taken in some money to make sure that that affordable housing can come through. It's called the Housing First Initiative, created by the federal government, but Milwaukee County is using it to invest in combating homelessness. So one of the quotes from this article I'm reading from the county government's press release says, when we reduce homelessness, we not only have healthier and safer communities, but we also save taxpayers money by avoiding undue burdens on our legal and health systems. So I want to repeat that last little piece. When we reduce homelessness, we save taxpayers money by avoiding undue burdens on our legal and health systems. Now, there's so many components of this piece, but what I want you to give some thought to is how we are spending our money. So let's say we have $100. That $100 can be used to either build housing for the homeless, or it can be used to staff police officers who are going to remove those homeless from that spot. My question to you is, what's the best use of the money, right? Housing, as Senator Tammy Baldwin said, housing is a human right. She's proud to be a partner for Milwaukee County as we work together to end homelessness. Again, that comes from a press release that was delivered from Milwaukee County government and the county executive. So the pieces are in play. People are coming to the forefront to help alleviate the issues. They're coming to help reduce the problem of homelessness. Now, I loved what one of the earlier callers said about documentation. So as you're getting your apartments, your affordable housing, read your lease, read it and understand it. If you don't fully understand it, reach out to resources that can help you in understanding it. Okay. Reach out to those resources that can, quote unquote, translate it for you so that you absolutely positively understand it. Now, me being the person that's going to dig a little bit deeper, I pulled up all the articles when I heard the story, and I started to find out, where is this coming from? Because everything has a beginning point. What I researched is that one of the sponsors of this legislation that is now before the Supreme Court is actually called the Cicero Institute. Now, I had never heard of the Cicero Institute until this week, but I'm going to do the homework for you so I can share with you. The Cicero Institute is a nonpartisan public policy organization with deep experience in the government, legislation, and the law, technology, and entrepreneurship. I'm reading that right from their website. Okay. Now, what does the Cicero Institute have to do with this? Well, if you think that Oregon and the encampments that are there just popped up on a radar one day, you would be woefully incorrect. The Cicero Institute has written the bill that has gone forth in all of these courts to remove homelessness in every single city. I kid you not. You go to their website, you can print off the bill to submit to your legislators. to say we don't want the homeless in our backyard. Baby, the homeless is your backyard. Okay. There is a reason they are in our city. There is a reason that people have found themselves in this position, and it serves all of us to understand why. I think what we're learning after the pandemic and over the past few years, now that politics is fun, quote unquote fun, it's the evening news. We want to see who's messing up the worst. These are people, and we are gambling with lives, and we're forgetting that these are implications that last decades, generations. And to go back to what one of the callers said earlier about having to get to a place every night at a designated time. Now, listen, I know how my day works. And there are times where I'm an hour late for something because of something that happened over here. We're expecting people to get off of work because, again, these are working poor. Let's not assume that homeless folks don't work. That would be a very incorrect statement. So I've got to get off work, figure out transportation, get to the housing facility in a certain amount of time, hoping that my fellow homeless folks haven't beat me there. Now I don't have a bed. Now what? So I ask you, Milwaukee, now what? We've got a caller. Welcome to the program. Good morning. You're listening to Community Heartbeat.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have something to say about Wisconsin and especially Milwaukee. Milwaukee, Wisconsin has allowed We Energy to help break down families, homeowners, elders that own their home there. Gas bill has become more than their home note.
Mm-hmm.
It should be more than one energy provider here, like down south. It's not fair that We Energy came here and preyed on a cold climate like Alaska, and Wisconsin didn't look at it closely that they preying on individuals. Since We Energy took over, if you notice, more people lost their homes by them being allowed to go up on the gas and heating. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
now Wisconsin, believe it or not, is a part of Canada. It was just split up. Okay, so
Mhm.
therefore it shares the same record of coldness of Alaska. Okay,
Okay.
so therefore Alaska helps and appreciate that folks that come to Alaska that stays in a cold climate where it's almost unbearable. Now, Wisconsin has dropped the recognition of that and allow We Energy just to come and keep going up on entities of bills in the cold area where you never know when it will become warm again, and that they need to be discontinued.
So
Wisconsin needs,
what do you think is the solution? So if we
uh,
know what the issue is, how do we solve it? How do we
well,
solve the energy cost?
well, here in Wisconsin, since wind energy has been a flaw in within their progress of service, the people have died under their service. We cannot allow them to try to push more of being the number one provider. We need to be able to put resolution together where people should be able to allow to have backup system that only charges from off We Energy system. Because if you have a battery system, truck batteries that's hooked up to a recycle alternator system, like a generator, you're storing your energy that you need for the either the day or the week. You need more than one or two, and then Wisconsin need to take back over We Energy plant and turn it back to Wisconsin Electric and hire the community back into to run it to make sure that we're not having a state that's allowing a utility company to prey on a cold climate and know the unbearable living that's here in Wisconsin. Need to re-recognize that and stop putting up to say that you qualify for energy assistance. It should not be that at all. That some of these homes is not even energy efficient, and it should be a force that these houses come up to code to be energy efficient, and it should be a limit of how much they can charge in a cold climate area as this condition.
Okay, so I got you. I got you. Let me. I think you've got some great
Oh,
ideas.
and then the
Mhm.
last thing, it's a secret call law that I had found. It's called self help law. This law was created during the time of the pandemic, where a landlord can't not just come and evict you. You have to go through a process through the court system. And also, it's a self help law called where some dealership is trying to repo your car. If a tow truck come to your house and you see it with your tow truck, with the tow truck trying to take your vehicle, you could tell them to drop right now, or they are violating and breaking peace. Okay, peace. That's what it's called. If they take your vehicle, you can sue them for the price of the vehicle and for what you have lost of work. I sued and found this law for evictions and also for repo during the pandemic. I had them pay $19,000 in cash back to me for my vehicle. So it's ways that you just look up self help law in Wisconsin. But those entities that I said need to be changed. West Milwaukee should the rent up in the neighborhood should be no more than 6 or 750, and no more than that. That's period in a cold climate like Alaska. Thank you.
We appreciate you greatly. Thank you for listening. Thank you for calling in. Now, listen, in this next hour, I have the experts, right? So I go and dig and look for the issues that we have. We have the experts from Outreach Community Health Centers here in the studio to talk about how all these things build on each other. So, again, we have the heating and cooling costs for our homes. We have rents going up that are more than the balance of what we're making. We have now these laws that are coming down that are pushing people out. And so, where do our rights fall in? Where does the public right fall in? How did we get to this place where these are our elected officials and these are folks that we have put in charge to govern us that are creating these policies and procedures that might be hurting us in the long run? What can we do? But that's the long view. The short view is how do we step up as Milwaukee and show people love today? So, how can we donate? How can we volunteer? How can we be part of the solution, not the problem? We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back, and I've got my experts. So make sure you call in if you've been hanging on. 414-444-5250. Talk back to me, Milwaukee. You're listening to Community Heartbeat, presented by Outreach Community Health Centers. We'll be right back. listening to Community Heartbeat, presented by Outreach Community Health Centers. This show is not just a show. This is a movement dedicated to bringing our community together through wellness, keeping your heart pumping with positivity. Talk back to me, Milwaukee. 414-444-5250 is the number to dial. And in the studio, I have experts from Outreach Community Health Centers. If you have been listening to the show every month since the top of the year, you know that we are tackling issues that affect Milwaukeeans directly. We are looking for solutions, and we are looking at how to keep our community safe and healthy. So in the studio, I have Brandy Lewis and Ashley Wisniewski. And let me just quickly read to you their bios, and then they're going to share what they do, how you can get involved, and where we go next in the city. So Ashley is currently the director of homeless services through Outreach Community Health Centers. Prior to her current position, Ashley worked for the Bureau of Milwaukee Child Welfare. She's also an instructor of crisis intervention training, or CIT, drug abuse response team, or DART, and advanced crisis intervention training. Ashley's master's degree is in public health with an emphasis on trauma informed care. And Brandy is the benefits program manager for Outreach Community Health Centers and is a local lead for SAMHSA's SOAR program. In addition to supervising a team of 5 benefits specialists, she is also a certified trauma informed care trainer and has been educating her coworkers and the community that she serves for over 5 years. She has a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology and Master's of Education Counseling. So, like I said, these are powerhouse women. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So, homelessness in Milwaukee. We started at the top of the show talking about the point in time count and how we get to homelessness throughout the country. But give me your thoughts quickly on the homelessness issue in Milwaukee.
So, unfortunately, for point in time, it's a skewed number. I would state that we do it every winter. We used to do it in the summer, which we no longer do as of, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago. But point in time is a snapshot across the country of individuals experiencing homelessness. So there's a lot of prep work. There's a lot of outreach teams and shelters that participate. So our team, along with Milwaukee County community advocates, and we set up routes to seek individuals experiencing homelessness. We see the number drastically go up during the summer. So when we're looking at individuals during the winter, we don't always catch everybody, and that's going to be accurate for every point in time count across the country. There's different encampments that we may not know about. We have an Excel spreadsheet with every known location that we've seen homeless individuals in Milwaukee County. But individuals that are experiencing homelessness, especially individuals that have been experiencing homelessness for long periods of time, are really good at, I would state, hiding themselves. So Milwaukee, we don't have a solidified number yet. So I don't want to misspeak about the number that we have for point in time.
Do you think it just as a trend? Is it going up? Is it reducing? Where are we just generally speaking?
So I think it's going up right now, and that's for a lot of reasons. I'm going to bring it back to COVID-19. We had a lot more resources in Milwaukee. We had a lot of hotel rooms in Milwaukee. We were really creative about getting people inside during the pandemic, and we lost a lot of that. We lost a lot of that funding, Milwaukee as a whole, and housing as a whole, the shelters as well. So I'd say that there's an uptick on individuals experiencing homelessness, but it's because we don't have space. We don't have the funds. We don't have shelters that have enough staff. We don't have enough staff. Hiring's been challenging.
So how do you think? And of course, we although you're my experts, I don't expect us to solve the problem in the next 40 minutes. But what are some of the tools and resources you think, if you could wave a magic wand and have every budget could have unlimited affordable housing builds, what do you think would get us closer to resolution of homelessness in Milwaukee?
So if I could wave a magic wand, there's a lot of things I do with that wand.
Mhm.
But I would say we absolutely need more case management because a majority of the individuals that we serve also suffer with severe and persistent mental illness. And we see that's a reason that a lot of individuals lose their housing. So having wraparound case management would be absolutely critical to keeping individuals housed.
And what does that mean? So this is Ebony. What does wraparound mean?
So wraparound would be like an individual, which we have these programs in Milwaukee, but we don't have enough.
Okay.
So it would be individuals helping with food insecurity or helping individuals pay rent on time. So for instance, if we have someone in Section 8 and they have a portion of rent to pay, we see a lot of individuals that aren't paying their portions of rent, so they get evicted and they
Mhm.
don't have anybody to help them or
Mhm.
understand, or the individual might not even know how to use a stamp.
Mhm.
Or so we
Mhm.
see all
Mhm.
kinds of challenges. Individuals that may not have transportation to get medication for their mental health or for their physical health.
Mm.
So
Mm.
individuals that can transport, individuals that can help with benefits. So I know that Brandy sees this too, where benefits lapse because 6 months reviews aren't turned in on
Mhm.
time because there's not
Mhm.
a way to do it.
Mhm.
So when I'm looking at wraparound, I'm looking at the whole person. So in every facet of their life.
And that's so important. And that's how I started the show, was to say that a lot of times we think that, or there's a persistent assumption that people who do not have homes, unsheltered populations, are lazy and they do. But listen, missing one little connection point with some paperwork, you have a portion of your rent, just not all of it. And now landlords are raising the rent again. So it's a squeeze in all directions. So, Brandy, you participate in assisting folks with these wraparound services, with these benefits. What are some of the biggest challenges you see that could then lead to homelessness?
There are several different challenges. Like Ashley said, missing paperwork deadlines. Walk-in enrollment services may send a letter out 4 months in advance, and you think you have time. And by the time that 4 months rolls around, you kind of forget about it, or you've moved and you
Mhm,
didn't update
mhm.
your address. And you don't realize it until you go to the pharmacy and try to get that medication, or you try to see the doctor and they say your insurance is lapsed, so we can't help you. So it's a lot of different things, and maybe even um, putting wrong information on your
Mm.
application will cause you to lose benefits. We see it all. So
And so, Milwaukee, can we agree to move forward with a little bit more compassion, because it's a lot. It's a lot. I feel like there's a mental tax on those who are not in the middle class. There's just a tax. Everything costs more. There are fees for everything. The deadlines are sometimes just so oppressive to get things done in this small period of time. And remember, you've got to do all this and make it back to the shelter in time to make sure that you get a bed for tonight. So we have to do better. I'm interested in, how does one get connected to the services at outreach? So we had one caller that called in, and if you are listening, 414-444-5250, weigh in. There was one caller that said, listen, I'm close to being homeless. I got some paperwork. I didn't read through the paperwork, or I did read through the paperwork, but they hit me with a gotcha. And so now they're saying I either buy the property outright or I have to go. What are some of the services that people can take advantage of directly if they're right on the cusp of homelessness? So they're not there yet, but they're close. What can outreach do to kind of help them through that process?
So that is unfortunately really, really difficult. So I oversee street outreach, but I also oversee a housing program called Rapid Rehousing. So there's different categories of homelessness, which I think is important for individuals to know. There's category 1, which means you're street homeless or you're sleeping in a shelter. There's category 2, which sounds like what this individual is going through, is they call it couch surfing, or they're 2 weeks out from an eviction. And then category 4 is fleeing domestic violence. A part of my magic wand would be more prevention programs to keep these things from happening. So right now, outreach doesn't have programming for individuals that are not category 1 homeless. We
Okay.
don't offer prevention. Per our grants, we're serving the category 1 homelessness. However, Impact 211 does have a prevention program.
So I saw a story some months back and I'm like, man, I get to work with superheroes every day. It was about Ashley and her team going out on one of those super cold days in the days before and the days after to just check on people. And one of the things that moved me so, like I'm in my office trying not to tear up, but one of the questions was just, how are you? Like, how are you today? Not taking in the situation, not leading with that, but just how are you as a person? So talk to me a little bit about your team, what they do, and what happens when they go out and meet folks in an encampment.
So I am so grateful for the team. I have a phenomenal team. We've been together for a long time, years. So we have a LPC, so a licensed professional counselor on the team who can go out in the streets and do mental health assessments, which I think is really critical because a lot of people don't want to come into the clinic. And he goes out and he does outreach. So he's not just sitting in the office. He also goes to St. Ben's and does individual therapy every Thursday. So he's crucial to our team for multiple reasons. Then we have a path outreach worker who's our boots on the ground. She's doing the overnight shifts. She's going every Friday. We go out from 2 a.m. to 8 a.m. to verify individuals that are sleeping outside. And that's another challenge in Milwaukee. In order to qualify for housing, you have to be in shelter or verified sleeping outside. So someone has to lay eyes on you.
Why do you think, let me pause there. Why do you think Milwaukee is requiring someone verifying that you're sleeping outside?
It's not Milwaukee, it's HUD.
Okay. Talk to me about it.
It's HUD, it's a HUD rule. So that's across the board if you're receiving HUD funding.
Okay.
So then you're verifying these individuals sleeping outside. Well, what happens if this person moves?
Mm-hmm.
These individuals don't have phones.
Mm-hmm.
So how are we going to see you sleeping? How are we going to find
I'm sleeping
you
somewhere else tonight?
Right.
You know.
So that is absolutely a challenge to find these individuals and verify them. And once you verify them, you have to write on letterhead where you saw them, what their name is, the dates that you saw the individuals. So that's a part of what our team does. It's a part of what Milwaukee County does. And community advocates, everyone has an overnight shift because the hours have to be during sleeping hours. We can't verify people at 4 p.m.
That's exhausting, right? I mean, that's exhausting. So Ashley won't say it, but I'm going to say it. When we start picking people who govern us, pay attention to what they're asking us, what hoops we're having to jump through. What I am hearing is that I have to verify that I don't have a home. And not only can I not do that during the hours that I might be working or trying to secure housing for the night, I got to verify that at 2 a.m. when I am sleeping in a tent in an encampment. It's wild.
Maybe if you have a tent.
We
find people
Mhm.
on concrete, under bridges. It's really, it's disheartening work, but it's beautiful work at the same time. And a lot of the engagement piece is, how are you as a human?
As a human, can we, Milwaukee, listen, we must do better. We must step up for the least of us in that period. Again, this affects all of us, and it could be all of us. You talked about having access to medications. What is the bridge that outreach is covering between meeting people where they are, healthcare, wellness care, medications when they're unsheltered?
So we love Brandy.
Hey, Brandy.
We really do.
And it's
more
really,
my
really
area.
do.
So outreach is, first they're going to connect you to us, like the benefits team. So we're going to kind of go over your income and see what you're eligible for. If some people are right on that cusp. We've had to tell people that they were denied over 50 cents a quarter. And it is really, it really stings. So outreach as a clinic, we have a lot of in-house services. So if you are not eligible for Medicaid, we can put you on our sliding fee scale. We get federal dollars to have a certain percentage of uninsured patients. So once you're on that sliding fee scale, depending on your income, it could be a $0 copayment. That would be more so for individuals who are not eligible because of their citizenship. So maybe they're not legal.
Okay.
And they don't have income. We can't insure them with Medicaid, regardless to, the fact that they're not making any money. They're not legal. And even when they become legal, it takes 5 years for them to be eligible for Medicaid benefits. So they could get food share, but if they just got a green card, we can't see them for another 5 years.
So I was gonna
that.
get on my soapbox about folks say, "Oh, immigrants come and take all the resources." Okay,
nope. So if they do have a 5-year waiting period for that, and then so say we get you on our sliding fee and you have medication needs, so that's where our pharmacy comes in. We do have a great pharmacy department that will work with you for several months while we try to figure out something
What's
for
going
you.
on?
And then ultimately we do end up having to refer out to Freighter so that they can do like charity care for someone. So there are several steps that we can go through before it's just, there's nothing that we can do.
I told you I have my experts in the building. They know what they're doing. So we have a caller. Caller, welcome to Community Heartbeat.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am calling because I heard you mention some stuff about homelessness, and forgive me if I have an echo or if there's other sounds because I am in my car and I'm on the speaker driving to Madison to go to a training.
Okay, stay safe. That's what we want.
Oh, I'm definitely safe. I'm only looking at the road as I talk to you. I'm hands free, so but I am definitely wanting to hear the information about how to help someone who is homeless.
Mm-hmm.
I took someone in with 5 children just before my mother died. And then after my mother died, I ended up taking the new job as a judge. And then I'm almost 3 months in that job. So it's turned into 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And when I told them what I was told, which is for them to call 211
Mm-hmm.
to say that they need to get a homelessness verification, but that process doesn't seem to be working effectively to help a family with 5 children who are homeless, who are somewhere because I was, taking them in, but ultimately I didn't need to have to care for them for a lifetime or
that extended period.
A year.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but now it's been 6 months and almost, and I'm hoping to at least understand where the breakdown is to try to see if there's a way to get this family help. I hear that there's help, but I'm just not clear why it's so difficult.
So Ashley, Brandy, thank you so much for your call. I appreciate that. We're talking, so this goes under the doubling up. So sharing of housing for economic reasons. That is also counted. So as I mentioned earlier in the show, 3.7 million people in 2021 identified as doubling up. So they had to leave their primary home to go live with someone else for economic reasons. So what resources do we have for that family of 5?
And just for clarity, Ebony, this person was in their car with their children, and so I don't know if doubling up exists, even if it is in a family, if it's just a community member that helps them or not. I'm not sure, but yes, ma'am, they went from a homeless in a car, right, to somewhere they could stay, which is still not adequate for an adult with 5 children. You know what I'm saying?
No, and thank goodness you could step up and fill that gap. And so thank you for that. Just as a human being to human being, seeing someone.
And thank you. And I'd like to know, because as I sit on the bench, I would like to know the services because I saw someone, for example, that came to court and it says through justice point that he was homeless. And I wanted to be able to say, sir, do this, this, and this. Or someone who could, as I heard you say, wrap services around him to be able to help him better. I wasn't fully sure what that could be. I would love to hear it, and I'm going to be quiet to hear it, but also to know if someone would even be accessible to sometimes be available, I don't know, at the courthouse. I'm hoping.
Ooh, I hear potential collaboration, and we appreciate you, Judge. All the work that you do, and just again being a great person who has a heart to serve. So I see you and I salute you for all that you do. So what resources exist, and what can we refer people to where we could actually lend a hand and help?
So unfortunately, this was a part of my wand, more prevention, because individuals that qualify for housing are either in shelter or sleeping outside. And that's not something that we can bend. That's a government HUD. This is what you need to do. So impact, like I was saying, you said you had called 211. I wish that there was.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I think what I just heard you say is because I took her in the home and she wasn't sleeping outside in her car, that now she's not eligible?
You heard correct. You heard correct.
Wild time.
I know. It is wild time. And that's where the breakdown is. And we've had people, I'm probably not supposed to say this on the air. We have people that have left double up situations to go sleep outside so that they can qualify.
So listen to what Milwaukee. I need you to listen and understand.
She's sleeping in her car tomorrow,
right?
Or tonight.
And so now think about where we go with legislation. So Judge, you can weigh in on this too. What we're hearing is that now there's legislation that's coming down that says if you're doubling up, you don't qualify because you actually have a warm place to sleep or a cool place to sleep. So you've got to be in your car. Now, if we find you in your car or we find you outside, we're going to fine you or arrest you because you should not be sleeping outside. Find somewhere.
Who's doing that legislation?
This case is coming down. It's being heard by the Supreme Court. There is an encampment in Oregon City. The legislation is sponsored by the Cicero Institute. So I did my homework. I wanted to find out why this issue popped up today or yesterday, or why we have to discuss this right now. And they're saying that people should not be able to sleep on public property as homeless, period. And if they are, they should be fined or arrested.
So that reminds me of John Trey Hamilton since it's 10 years. So his sleeping on the park bench would apply to that also.
Correct. And so when we look at this, we see these are real implications. So this is not hypothetically speaking. And somewhere, somehow we got to thinking of legislation and law as hypothetically speaking. These have real consequences. When I look at the work that Ashley is doing with the PATH program and actually out connecting with people, again, we make assumptions about why people don't have homes, why they're sleeping in their cars. That's irrelevant. The fact is that this person is sleeping in their car, right? So I can't hear when people are, we got to do better. I need to see action. And so the legislation is where we start. Volunteering, donating, is also where we start, but listening to our politicians and calling them to the carpet to do better.
So,
and thank you so much for that information on her, and I'll listen to what to do for the person who is homeless, is not doubled up. That is so disheartening to say that you don't want people to help someone because if they do, then the person is no longer eligible.
I would
no matter if they're a stranger or if they're family.
I would absolutely love to be a liaison.
Okay. So we'll work that out.
At a courthouse.
we will make that collaboration happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and I will say that Milwaukee has grown with Milwaukee Police Department. It used to be wiping out encampments, throwing people's things away, goodbye with all of your stuff. But thinking about trying to get into housing when someone's thrown away your birth certificate and social security card. We had an individual that had medications and their tribal paper thrown away, and you can only get tribal paper in that certain state. So Milwaukee Police Department has done a great job of contacting outreach teams now and being like, hey, we see this encampment. So right now we're seeing the park and rides, and contacting and being like, can you all outreach? Can you all try to come up with solutions? And we collaborate a lot with other outreach teams. Can we look at solutions?
Do you all get money for doing that? I'm just wondering for a friend.
For a friend?
Do you all get funded because this reminds me of oh my goodness, I can't remember my sister's name who does that exact thing, but she was doing it on her own. Her bus burned up one time.
Oh my.
Angels, I think it's anyway.
Street Angels.
Street Angels, yes. So does anyone get service or grants, dollars from the county or the city for that? Just in my clarity?
Yes.
Clarity?
Yes, we received funding, and we collaborate with individuals that are with teams that are nonprofit and perhaps faith-based or street outreach, street life, Benedict Center. There's different agencies that might not be funded but have great intel and have great information about where individuals are sleeping. So the part that's a struggle is these nonprofits that are not funded don't have access to housing like the programs that are funded through SAMHSA, through the county, through the government.
Okay.
So I say reach out and call 414-727-6320. Connect with our benefits, connect with our street outreach, and ask those questions. So if you or someone you know is going through this process, please reach out, because if there are no resources, they can figure out at least what they can share with you to put you in a better position. So Judge, I appreciate you.
Last question on that then. If you would text me that number,
sure.
Because of course I'm not
keeping
able
you
to take
safe.
it down, and with homelessness. And then last thing, if I call that number, if I break in a case because I see somebody is homeless, and I call that number, I don't have a lot of time, right? What am I gonna go through a litany of a long haul to get to somebody?
Well, look, you've got our two experts. So when you call, you ask for Ashley, you ask for Brandy, and they'll put you into the pipeline. But we'll talk offline to set those resources up, because it really will take all of us utilizing where we are to make a difference. So I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. You too. We'll take one caller and then we'll head to a quick break. Caller, welcome to Community Heartbeat.
Thank you, ladies. I would like to say this. We spend billions of dollars to kill people, but we want to send hundreds of thousands of dollars just to get people off the streets.
That part.
And then we are forcing people to not be homeless. How can you force people to be homeless? As I
read this legislation, that was my question. How can you say get up from here and go where? That was I sat it and I'm Googling, and go where? To another place?
And then you fight mental illness too. Because the majority of them are mental ill.
Well, we can't say majority, but what we can say is that there are
a percentage of them.
There is a percentage, but there's also a percentage that go to work every day and just caught a couple bad breaks. And there are folks that are fleeing domestic violence, right? We don't give enough credence to that. There are people who just decide the living situation that I'm in is not okay for me. Right. And so it could be not safe.
Or
it
the
could
person
be,
that you or the person that you're staying with tell you to get out.
There you go. And so, like I say, we could all find ourselves in this position. Some of us have found ourselves in this position. And so with that lens, with that compassion, how do we do better? So let me ask, just curious, from the benefit side and from the street outreach side, how many people are you seeing per year? Just a ballpark. I've got a few numbers from HUD. In 2023, marked in Wisconsin, folks that were quote unquote registered, which means they were tallied as being without shelter in homeless shelters, was 2,089 people. In households without children. So these are people that don't have children but identify as homeless. Households with one child, one adult, 414. And then households with only children was marked at 23. So I'm curious, just as a number, and caller, don't hang up. I do want to come back to you in just a second. What kind of scope, what kind of numbers are we looking at that you all are serving every year? If you just had to pick a ballpark.
For my program specifically, we touch about 200 category 1.
Okay.
That are truly homeless.
Okay. And then how many are kind of in that transient? They might have a home Tuesdays and Wednesdays. They don't have any, on the weekends.
Yeah. We're looking about maybe 500 or 600, and then 800 folks who wouldn't fall into that category. So we're seeing it across the board.
And Ashley, you've been at this for a while. Are there any trends that you're seeing from year to year? So I know coming out of COVID, we had a whole pool of issues, but are there some things that are persistent and run the same from year to year that are causing people to be homeless?
Absolutely. Lack of employment. And we have to look at the causes of the cause. If you are sleeping under a bridge, how are you going to get an appropriate outfit to go to an interview? How are you going to get a call back without a phone? How are you going to get a driver's license without a piece of mail? So we're looking at all these requirements that individuals need to have in order to gain employment. We also have the severe and persistent mental illness that we see, I would say, in the majority of the population we serve, and also the trauma. So I know Brandy agrees with this, but being homeless is a trauma. We have individuals that don't want to seek services. So I'll give an example of an individual who was really struggling with their mental health, and she thought that she had a house in Washington, D.C. from the president. So how do you house that individual that already believes that they're housed? So we see a plethora of challenges when we're trying to engage and get individuals housed. So I ran our numbers for street and path this morning. And since January of 2024, we had 247 category 1 individuals that we encountered. But I did also run the housing one because I want to bring good news too. So since January, we've housed 61 individuals and families that were experiencing homelessness.
Well, I say kudos to all that you do. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll grab our caller and we'll talk about some concrete things we can do to help shore up the other Milwaukeeans, because we're all in this together. You're listening to Community Heartbeat, presented by Outreach Community Health Centers. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Vanessa, co-chair of the Juneteenth Vendors.
I am Frank, co-chair of the Juneteenth Volunteers.
Juneteenth is fastly approaching and space is always limited. So if you have an interest in being a vendor, you need to sign up today.
Juneteenth would not be successful unless we have volunteers. We need volunteers for a multitude of different areas. So companies, corporations, organizations, Divine Nine, even families, please sign up to be volunteers today.
So call Northcott Neighborhood House today at 414 414-372-3770.
Vendors and volunteers call today at 414-372-3770.
Thank you.
Prom is here and graduation is near. Stop by Nick Avani's, where they have a large variety of suits, blazers, and shoes to get you right for that special day. You already know Nick Avani has the $100 hookup. You can get a suit, shirt, tie, and shoes, all for just $100. Nick Avani's, open 7 days a week with an on-site tailor. Nick Avani's on the second floor of the Mayfair Mall, across from the movie theater.
Hey Milwaukee, my name is Martina and I'm with the Independent Living Supports Pilot Program team. We help adults 55 plus and those 18 plus living with disabilities, providing up to $7,200 for home services, medical equipment, home modifications, and more. There's less than 30 days left to sign up for this program. See if you qualify today. Call 414-289-6874. Again, that's 414-289-6874. This program is made possible by Milwaukee County and Wisconsin Department of Health and Human Services.
Get ready, Wisconsin. The Black Child Development Institute is expanding its village statewide. Join us for an unforgettable evening of celebration and empowerment at our gala on Saturday, May 4th, 2024 at the Hilton Milwaukee City Center. Tickets are available for $150 per person and sponsorships are available. Adorn yourself in formal African attire as we celebrate this momentous occasion and the growth of our village. For more information and to purchase tickets, call 414-236-5641 or visit bcdi-wisconsin.org. That is 414-236-5641 or bcdi-wisconsin.org. Don't miss out on this unforgettable event. Together, let's build a brighter future for Wisconsin's children.
Welcome back to Community Heartbeat. Caller, thank you so very much for holding on. I just wanted to make sure I gave you time and space to share additional thoughts that you had with us this morning.
Another question I would like to, ask, is there opportunities for these young adults, these teenage kids that are homeless, that are staying in abandoned houses, they don't want you to know they're homeless?
Do we have resources for it?
We do. There's a wonderful resource called Pathfinders.
Mm-hmm.
They have a drop-in center as well as an outreach team, and they're specifically focusing on young adults up to 24.
I love that. And so do you know of folks that could utilize that resource or would need additional resources as well?
Yeah, I mean, I have actually boarded up houses that they actually were living in.
So I'm curious, and I don't want to put you on the spot. How do you create outreach for that? So you come upon a house and it's got some folks that are living there. What's the next thing that you do?
Well, next thing I do is it's abandoned property, so I have to call
calling in
the Milwaukee Police Department.
Okay, so
which is already stagnant because they have to think about the police is coming.
Where do they go? So
yeah,
where do they go? So I would implore you all to be a bit of a superhero yourself. We've got these resources, street outreach through community heartbeat. I was going to say through outreach community health centers. They have the street outreach program, but calling places like Pathfinders, it may take 5 minutes of your day, but go in and Google homeless resources. Have a few numbers on deck with you so that you can make referrals so that people can find places to be. Again, I always think, where are they going to go? And that's such a simple question. So as we're talking about arresting people for sleeping in an encampment, where are they supposed to go?
And we do have, and I'll share this. I can email this or you can post it. We have a huge resource guide for everything you can think of, from food to clothing to shelters, What do I do if this individual is experiencing this? It's probably like 50 pages.
I think I'm going to work to get that up on our website.
Yes.
Give me a few days to get that up on our website, OCHC-MILW.org. I will make sure that I put that resource guide up because, again, sometimes it's just knowing the resources that are there and being able to close that gap. So I'll make sure that that goes up. Thank you so much for your call. Let me grab the next caller. Please keep listening. Again, together, we're going to make Milwaukee better. Appreciate you. Caller, welcome to Community Heartbeat.
Well, good morning, and how are you?
Good morning. I'm well this morning. How about yourself?
I'm doing just fine, but this is the question I need to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I just heard the gentleman say that he boarded up abandoned houses.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and to run the kids out or run whomever out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why in God's name can't they take those abandoned houses and fix them and renovate them for the homeless? They're sitting there anyway, and they're going to tear them down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that would give I see so many boarded up houses all over the city. And if they really are serious about getting people off the street, fix those houses up. If they're good enough for them to lay in and they're abandoned, they can patch them up and make it good enough for them to have a place to stay.
You are absolutely right. Listen, I had a teacher in high school that would say the person that stays awake the longest in the civics class gets to spend the tax dollars. So if you're not bored through listening through all of the committee, then you get to do what you want to do. Now, here's the reality of Milwaukee. People who own property can do with it what they will, as long as it's not illegal. So I can own a home and keep it boarded up, and that's not illegal. If I'm paying taxes on that property, in some instances, it may benefit me more as a property owner to let that house fall into disrepair than to repair it. But this is where that social pressure comes in. If I know this abandoned house is owned by XYZ Corporation, I got to press XYZ Corporation to do better. The other piece of that is whenever we create this legislation for transitional housing or affordable housing, we get an uproar from communities. Or I don't want, quote unquote, those people living in my neighborhood. So we also have to check ourselves a little bit to say, not everybody can afford a $3,000 home. Not everybody can afford $2,000, $1,000, $500. So the reality is people have different incomes. And so we have to be more focused on housing that people can afford without having 8 roommates, right? To be able to afford it. And having that compassion, because it'll either be boarded up or it'll be people living in it. And so those are the decisions we have to make. We also have to press our city government to say, what do we do with these houses? What are the penalties? How many times? Because I'm sure it's a pull on our police officers, right, to keep responding to calls and
exactly, and the money that they're spending just for the police to come out there. And what I'm saying, also, what makes our government and our law and our state bow down to absenteeism landlords? There should be a rule. If you don't fix this house up in X amount of time, it's gone. And I don't care how much taxes you pay, you got to do something with this property.
Yeah.
They got to stand up to them. They can't let them do that. There's so many houses boarded up. They can't just take over. And that's exactly what they're doing. All these big conglomerates coming in, buying all these big apartments and half fixing them. And who, in fact, inspects those properties? How in the world can a person rent a place to anybody in those conditions? Just like you said earlier, roofs leaking. That's what they do. So they abandon their property, go buy some other stuff, make uku's of money, and leave that sitting there for us to contend with as a community.
Yeah, that was one of the pieces that as again, I'm doing my homework because I want to make sure that I'm informed on the totality of the issues, but also to have our experts here who are dealing with this year
Yes.
in and year out and who can speak to that. So we got a little bit of work to do, Milwaukee. And again, I
We
believe
do.
everybody does their part, and we'll get there. So thank you so much for your call. Let me grab the
And
next caller.
thank you for having me.
Absolutely. If you are listening, 414-444-5250. I have Ashley and Brandy in the studio today. Benefits and homeless outreach in the city. They're experts at what they do, making sure that services reach the people that they need. Caller, welcome to Community Heartbeat.
Yes, I'm calling back with a resolution solution.
Okay.
Calling in Milwaukee revamp, and it should be a referendum on individuals coming in buying property that's from out of state. If they're not have management or anything like that, or if they got bad reporting, they need to have reference, making sure there's no complaints, and they should be disallowed if that's so. And then I've been looking for business for over, say, 12 years now. And I went down to the city of Milwaukee, and there's no type of discipline or responsibility for individuals coming in, buying property, and leaving up out of here and abandoning property that makes a sore community. And Milwaukee is allowing this. They need to put a referendum in. If you buy property here, it has to be operational. It has to be up running. It has to be management. And if it's not, it falls into possibility of being docked on that preference as being abandoned property, and also put into for the city to use for home buyers in the community, or property community buyers to buy, to make sure that the community stay vibrant. And they need to make a rule: you buy property here, you cannot leave it abandoned, because it disvalues the property. People go and take everything out of it, all the utilities out of it. Then it leaves Milwaukee with trashy property that they are pricing, gouging with tax and getting away with it. And no one is saying nothing about it. So they need to change that. If you got a building here, you must be attendant or have attendant, and must be operational. If not, you lose your permit to even have it as yours, and be put in a tax lien.
So I'm going to say this. I appreciate the call. One thing to consider, especially as we're talking legislation, is sometimes these things have unintended consequences. So as I'm reading the proposed legislation from the Supreme Court and what the issue at hand is regarding encampments, in their minds, they're saying, well, this is going to keep our city beautiful. We won't have homeless out in the open where you can see it. But the unintended consequences, they will show up somewhere. People are very resilient. And so sometimes you see folks in these abandoned buildings because it is wind chill 50 outside. So the choice is, do I sleep outside and be quote unquote legal, or do I find shelter in this house that nobody's living in anyway to get myself out of the elements? So we also have to think about, people are resilient and they're smart, and they are going to do what is going to serve them better. So take that legislation down to City Hall. The beautiful thing about our city is that you can watch these proceedings on public access television, and you can see who's in favor of what. So I appreciate the calls that we've received today. Y'all are on it, Milwaukee. So let me touch base again with Ashley, Brandy, homeless outreach, street outreach, and path program, and the benefits. What is something that we can do as a community right now today? So somebody's listening to the program. How can they help right now at this moment? Help you do what you do better, or help someone else in need? What can we do?
Well, I think if you have family members or close friends that are struggling, just being able to maybe refer us as a resource. I'm more on the mental health piece of it, not necessarily the homeless piece, but they do connect together. And I think as a community, we tend not to talk about that mental health piece. So we can see people struggling, and I don't want to say ignore it, but maybe kind of downplaying it a little bit, or maybe telling them that they can pray it away. And prayer is great, but we have to have action behind it in order for things to move forward. And so I think if we see somebody struggling, or somebody that's in close proximity to us, a family member, a friend, just being able to kind of steer them in the right direction so that they can start that process of kind of turning it around, because we identify things, and a lot of times we don't know how to address what's going on. Like, we can see it, but we don't necessarily know what our next move is going to be. So I think helping them make those connections, because if I'm struggling mentally, I'm not necessarily thinking about calling outreach.
That's
but
it.
if my
That's
friend or my cousin or my mother sees me, then she can kind of steer me in that direction and get that process started.
It takes a village. Ashley, what do you think? What do you need? What can the people do right at this moment?
So I think I completely agree with Brandy. I know that there's a lot of individuals that want to help the homeless population, and I understand that. But roping in professionals, I think, is really important. Individuals that have been trained in engagement, trauma-informed care, have gone to school, have learned the ropes of Milwaukee. A lot of individuals we've built rapport with, and when a stranger comes in and tries to assist, it breaks everything down for us. So we used to allow volunteers during point in time, for example, and we cut that completely out. We don't have individuals that we don't take individuals from the community on our overnight shifts unless it's like a journalist, because we work so hard to build rapport. So absolutely reaching out to outreach when you're finding individuals experiencing homelessness.
So don't just roll up in the encampment.
Please
yourself.
don't. Please don't, for multiple reasons. It could be unsafe too.
But
So
you wouldn't want anyone just popping up into your space to quote unquote help. So let's think about that too. Reach out to the professionals that know who folks are.
Right. Your home. It's someone coming into your home. And we do that a lot. Is anyone home?
And it can trigger a trauma response.
Yes.
Because people use goods, items, money to have that power of control, or this, you do this and I'll give you this. So you could be potentially walking into a very volatile situation, depending on your approach.
Right. And I think that's especially critical with, I know we haven't talked a lot about this population, but individuals that are engaging in sex trafficking. So there's a very, very delicate, certain way that it needs to be approached. And it's a safety issue.
Yeah.
It's a safety issue. And we know that people have best intentions and they want to help, and they want to go to the encampments, but sometimes it just makes our job more difficult. So the other thing that would be really helpful right now is, because we have multiple families moving in, we move these individuals in, but they don't have beds, and they don't have dressers. They don't have food. Maybe their benefits haven't come through yet. They don't have transportation. So bus passes are really helpful. Food cards are really helpful. Cleaning supplies. So sometimes I get like these little pots of money where I can make like cleaning kits. So think about your house when you turned 18. What do I need? I need a trash can. I need a shower curtain. I need Clorox wipes. So all of those little things are really important and critical that we can't provide right now.
So we'll take a quick break. Before we do that, I want to share the website, OCHC-MILW.org. There is a donate tab. You can actually go to the website, click on items, and have those items directly delivered to outreach. So you don't have to worry about trying to coordinate a drive and drop things off. You can go in, click, deliver blankets, gloves, Clorox wipes. So visit the website, OCHC-MILW.org. We'll be right back. You're listening to Community Heartbeat, presented by Outreach Community Health Centers.
Wisconsin Home Energy Assistance Program end of the season is approaching. Don't miss out on benefits and help with your WE energy bill. Just go to keepwarmmke.org. It's made it easy for you to schedule an appointment. You may also call 414-270-4653. Don't delay. Call us today. Again, that's 414-270-4653. Or visit us online at keepwarmmke.org. This is administered by the State of Wisconsin Home Energy Plus program.
Cities around the nation are grappling with concerns about public safety, historic distrust, increased rates of crime, and civil unrest. As residents demand transparency and accountability, they have signaled a desire to do things differently. More police departments are driving community engagement efforts and prioritizing relationships with the people they serve. On Saturday, April 27th, the Executive Committee of the Community Brainstorming Conference invites you to hear from representatives from the Milwaukee Police Department as they discuss their work towards increased public safety and opportunities to work with the department. Attend this informative program at St. Matthew's CME Church, 2944 North 9th Street, this Saturday, April 27th. Never a charge to attend. Continental breakfast served at 8 a.m. Program starts at 9 a.m. You can also join online by visiting communitybrainstormingconference.org.
Milwaukee, guess who's back? It's your man, Kevin Buchanan, inviting you to join me each and every Friday night for the Friday Night Jukebox Party from 9 p.m. till midnight. I'll hit you with a little bit of this, a little bit of this, and of course, some of this. Each and every Friday night, it's the Friday Night Jukebox Party. From 9 p.m. to midnight, join yours truly, Kevin Buchanan, exclusively right here on 860 AM and 106.5 FM. WNOV, The Voice.
Hi, this is Keith Parrish, the host of Community Voice, asking you to join us Mondays through Fridays from 9 to 11. You will hear from interesting guests, Wednesday's Word, and topics and subjects that impact our beloved community.
And don't forget about me, Devon Jones, DJ The Protege, here every Friday, bringing you Free Flow Friday, Politics Nation, Sports, Haters Nation, local events, national events. And remember, while I'm here, there'll be no passes given.
That's Community Voice heard on The Voice, WNOV 860, 106.5.
WNOV 860 and W293CX 106.5 Milwaukee.
Welcome back, Community Heartbeat, presented by Outreach Community Health Centers. I am so very grateful for Ashley and Brandy here today from Outreach Community Health Centers, working in the street outreach and PATH program and benefits services over at Outreach. We were talking during the break, how do you get out of the cycle? So it seems like, one or two bad breaks, and it's a cycle that just doesn't end with wait times and wait lists and paperwork and checklists. So we try to end on a positive piece. Milwaukee, you can do something. So you can go in right now, click the donate tab, monetary. Otherwise, you can donate supplies to those that are unhoused in the city. ochc-milw.org. If you are looking to connect to resources, give us a call at 414-727-6320. Give us a little transition period because we're live on the radio right now, so that Ashley and Brandy are here at the studio, but give them some transition time and give them a call to connect to those resources. Although it's difficult to say, be patient with the process. This is bureaucratic. It's a lot of red tape. But before we go, I'm interested to find out, we're coming on summertime. We know that a lot of things change when more people are outside in the summer. How does that affect what you do? Do you see more or less? Is this a good time in the city? Just give me your quick opinion on what the summertime means for outreach.
So for us working with the homeless population, we definitely see an increase, and that's for multiple reasons. During the winter, we have warming rooms. So the warming room shut down as of March 1st. So if those individuals didn't receive shelter, transitioned into shelter or housing, they're back outside. So when we had three or four warming rooms over the winter. So that's one cause of the increase. The other one is Uncle Joe and Aunt Mary don't want their cousin sleeping on the couch anymore, and it's warm outside, so you have to go. So individuals look at the weather. It's not cold anymore. You don't need a place to sleep. You can sleep outside. Here's a tent. We've had instances where people have been in a tent on their relative's property. They won't let them sleep in the house. So we've seen all kinds of things. But with the warm weather, we always say we start in April. We say here it goes, because we already know that our numbers are going to increase substantially.
Makes sense. Brandy, anything we can do in the benefits? I know that speak to me really quickly on November and what happens with open enrollment and health insurance, and how, again, that's a process with people just signing up for benefits. So how does the summer change what you do, and what should we be on the lookout for?
Well, the summer doesn't necessarily impact the insurance side of the house. It's more so our folks that are applying for the Social Security disability. We have a specific program that's designated to it's a sister program to Ashley's PATH program. So you have to be homeless or at risk of homelessness and be experiencing a mental health issue. So oftentimes in the summer, we have a hard time catching those folks. When it's cold, they're at home or at the shelter, and we actually go to those places and we see them. So it's a lot easier for us to kind of pin them down. We know where they're gonna be. So if it's cold and they're gonna be at St. Ben's, I can pull up to St. Ben's and do this paperwork with them and get things done. But in the summertime, it's a little bit hit or miss. So that's kind of where that comes in at. But the insurance piece, every November 1st, the marketplace opens for those that are not eligible for Medicaid services. For currently a single person, if you're making over $1,255, you are not eligible for Medicaid. So anything over that amount is going to kind of shift over to the marketplace. Depending on your income, it could be affordable. You could get a plan for $0 or, somewhere upwards to $100 or $200, just depending on what your needs are. If you're somebody that doesn't need to go to the doctor, certainly a plan that's low cost or no cost is going to be good for you, or maybe even a catastrophic level plan, this is just in case something happens, because I am typically a healthy person. So it really just depends. But every November 1st, that marketplace is going to open up, and you do want to speak with the professionals, whether it's, calling somebody at outreach or calling and talking to somebody directly at the marketplace. I recommend going to see a specialist in person, like someone from my team or myself, because if you call the marketplace, you may be talking to somebody in Kentucky and they don't know what plans go where in the state of Wisconsin. So they can't really steer you. If you say, well, I go to Ascension, they can't tell you what plan you should be taking. And that tool is not always accurate. So you do want to kind of stick with the professionals.
Well, we appreciate you. Brandy Lewis, Ashley Wisniewski, Ebony Solly, Community Heartbeat, powered by Outreach Community Health Centers. Thank you, ladies. The number 414-727-6320. Get connected. We're in this together, Milwaukee. Until next time, you're listening to Community Heartbeat.
WNOV 860 and W293CX 106.5 Milwaukee. The views and opinions expressed on this show do not reflect that of the staff and management of WNOV and W293CX 106.5 FM.